I think we're all, and Anton said before while he was speaking that he is standing between the wine, but it's us actually who is standing between the wine and the, we're sitting, sorry. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ilana Aftanamova. I work at the Fund of the President of Ukraine for Education, Science and Sports. And tonight we will have the final panel on reskilling and upskilling for the reconstruction and recovery. No pressure at all. We have some representation from VC startups, Education Alliance, and as well as a tech company or social enterprise that works in Ukraine. We have like 30 minutes, to be frank, not much time to discuss all the skills we need to reconstruct and rebuild Ukraine. But nevertheless, let's begin with the round of intros. And then I'll ask you a few questions. And I don't think we'll have time for a question from the audience. So please free to ask questions afterwards. Simon, let's begin with you.
Hi, people. My name is Simon. I'm from Poland. I help Beetroot Academy on their international expansion. Beetroot Academy is an impact organization that main mission is to educate people in tech. So what we usually do, we help people to stay in their daily jobs and learn tech or coding or project management skills in the evenings. So in a few months, they can enter the tech ecosystem. And so far, we did that with 10,000 alumni, of which most are Ukrainian people, citizens. Some of them are displaced all over Europe, also in the US. Every single year, we are doing 800 scholarships with help of other organizations and government. And just right now, like last week, we launched a group of project management with veterans from Ukrainian army. So we hope that we can expand that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Oleg Ospenko. I represent Flashpoint VC. So we are the investor side of education technology and upskilling. The firm is kind of very, very specialized. We do predominantly a B2B SaaS, predominantly Series A, which is all ironic because all three investments we've done in education were not B2B SaaS and were not Series A, but I'll probably talk about it a little bit later.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex. I'm CEO of Headway. Headway is a family of EdTech products. We specialize in lifelong learning, bite-sized, and micro-learning. We have 3 products as of now. The most famous is Headway, also Impulse Bar, Brain Training, and Nibble, which we launched recently. With our product, we close human needs to the continuously self-develop, and we are happy to contribute to Ukrainian request for a reskilling, upskilling of a broader audience.
Thank you. And we have one person, one panelist online. Please, Beth.
Hi, Beth Hovinger, and I'm the Managing Director of the European EdTech Alliance. We're a non-for-profit, and we are currently active in 25 countries, and we represent about 2,600 different organizations throughout the EdTech ecosystem. So that is predominantly smaller companies, SMEs, but then also includes some ministries. And we do a lot of work as well at the higher policy level, trying to help create the structures that are necessary for an equitable education ecosystem.
Thank you so much. So I will begin with the first question. Simon, I'll ask you. So we have the target from the Ministry of Economy of 7% growth of GDP year, right? So it's kind of very ambitious plan. And for that, we need to reskill and upskill lots of people. You said 10,000 people already been reskilled, but at the same time, we understand that maybe public-private partnerships could be a solution. What do you think about it? If so, how it could potentially look like?
Yeah, it's an ambitious target, but I think very much needed for the economy of Ukraine, and I think for the economy of Europe as well. I would say that we can learn from the big guys, like the US, for example. I don't know if you know that, but majority of growth in new roles, in new demand for talent comes from startups. Yeah. So right now we're entering a cool down market in tech, which is unfortunate. They combine these things together, and the war, the cool down, and a couple of other things that are coming through, which are making it difficult for the biggest driver, which is demand, right? So in our school, we're focusing on joining the demand with talent and our ability to educate people. So so basically for us, it's relatively easy to get governments or get other organizations, NGOs, to invest in people. But the problem right now is with getting these people through the first layer of their real education, which is work. Because in tech, it requires a lot of experience to get into, I would say, certain levels that allow to be very productive. Yeah, of course, AI is helping with this in these days. But what is important that there are also other opportunities. Like we're looking at right now 1.2 million of veterans in Ukraine, which are in many ways, for example, disabled. So for them, tech is an opportunity to continue their lives, to continue growing, and we want to provide that education. And I think it's going to be beneficial for not just the defense tech, but for other sectors to have people from the military being trained in tech and providing value for their teams.
Perfect, thank you. So what I'm hearing is that like solve the demand side of the problem and we're ready. Okay, I'll ask then Alexander. So you have the vast majority of your team is in Ukraine, and whether you have any obstacles and challenges with raising funds. I think this is the question number one. And question number two, you have B2B and B2C products. So do you think there is a way how your products could be part of the reskilling programs, both on national and regional levels?
Thank you for the question. Concerning difficulties fundraising being a Ukrainian startup, honestly, we saw some difficulties in negotiations only the first months of the war. We understand in investor perception of constantly evaluating risk-reward ratios, and in spring 2022, we were okay that they decided to pause. In Headway, we are building our relationship with prominent names in the investment industry, and I'm proud to say that we received several offers during the wartime. Yeah. Fundraising is not the primary goal for our company. We are profitable EdTech startup. We grow with 3-digit numbers, and we decided that we will fundraise when we find it proper time for concerning our strategy and the market conditions are good enough. I would like just to remind everybody that the venture capital is in a downturn. Even prominent names with high burn rates have difficult times fundraising all around the world. But the situation can change dramatically when you put the right numbers on the table. Let's consider Headway. We are profitable. We have launched our third application. We have doubled our headcount. We doubled our downloads in 2022. We plan to do the same in 2023. It's all recognized with numerous recognitions and awards, GSV list, GP Bullhounds, which even called us among the next 50 unicorns in Europe. So when you have such credentials, the market will approach you and you become a lucrative assets. And I hope that our example creates some optimism for the rest of 2,000 Ukrainian IT companies that they can achieve the same. And concerning the second question, whether our product can be integrated, I would like to say that from the start of the war, we significantly contribute to efforts supporting Ukraine. We do it via market initiatives and communications. We donate a lot. And of course, being a tech startup, we create educational content to battle Russian propaganda or to create more awareness about Ukraine in the world. We made in our app a separate collection dedicated to war in Ukraine, a series of war safety infographics. This year, we made a separate collections of non-fiction books by Ukrainian authors. And Honestly, we have a positive track record of cooperation with Ministry of Digital Transformation, Ministry of Education of Ukraine. We already cooperated with them by publishing our war safety infographics in national-wide applications to make them available to everybody in Ukraine. It's part of our mission is to provide accessible education and empower people. And we believe that our products, this belief is shared among all teammates, can significantly impact the reskilling program, allowing people to close the skill gap to make them more employable. So we will continue working with state agencies, and we will continue making localized, tailor-made for specific needs content to address specific goals. And finally, our product Headway Up is fully free for any Ukrainian who can benefit from it even now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just to sum up, show me your numbers, right? So if the numbers are right, then it's kind of easier to fundraise. Doesn't matter.
Have a good business and investor will come.
And then it doesn't really matter whether your team is located in Ukraine or not. So there is some, I would say, you're a great example for teams who are building from Ukraine. Yeah, just show the numbers.
Oleg
and then,
will confirm.
Yeah, Oleg. Then, and the second point that you've made that you've already been working with the governmental organizations, and there is a way to cooperate in reskilling and upskilling, and I think this is kind of great news. And the product is free for choice for all Ukrainians who are located in Ukraine. Perfect. Thank you, Oleg. The question for you. So, you're investing into your region in Israel, right? And from your experience, like the need for reskilling, it's not just in Ukraine, right? So we have a huge AI uncertainty and all the things. So from your experience, what are the best examples of maybe reskilling, upskilling products, if there are any? And do you think who are the customers there? Is it government? Is it the citizen? Is it corporates? Who is paying?
Well, I'm conscious about the fact that we're again between the audience and the wine, so I'm going to be brief. We have not yet seen a good example of the upskilling platform or reskilling platform, unfortunately. What we have seen is the kind of unique, sort of very niche products that have originated in Central Eastern Europe or Israel and then sort of been scaled globally. So I'll kind of the 4 EdTech companies that are in our portfolio, 2 actually from Ukraine. Preply, one of our portfolio companies couldn't join. They had a conflict of interest, but the kind of one of the prime examples where you take such a kind of reasonably kind of boring and kind of not exceptional product as teaching people languages, and then you just with the kind of very, very polished product, you can sort of create a global platform that is kind of growing from strength to strength. And also kind of the talent that exists in Central Eastern Europe and especially Ukraine is kind of is exceptional from the point of view that when you are in a small or medium-sized country, you have to start from the first principle, and first principle has to be, I have to build kind of a platform which is global or at least covers the US market, otherwise I'm dead. Right. And if you have that mentality from day one, then kind of a lot of things that you see from quality perspective is actually quite rewarding when you're an investor. Who is the client ultimately? Again, like we wish that the governments would wake up about the longevity crisis and kind of the crisis of kind of quiet resigning from workplace and all the things that we could talk for a long time. We don't see it yet, but hopefully where we were able as an institution, as an organization, to spot these specific niche products, whether this is kind of global platforms coming from Ukraine that teach English, or a platform that kind of we invested, for example, in chess.com, right, which is like from the educational perspective, a extremely sort of niche thing that just ballooned dramatically after COVID and Queen's Gambit, to be honest, right? Kind of we got a little bit lucky because it was chugging along for 7-8 years and we were preparing all the business plans, and then COVID here and kind of Queen's Gambit there, and before you know, you almost have a unicorn. So kind of like we would like to kind of we're continuing to scout for the opportunities in upskilling and adskilling space, because we believe that the market is there. but we have not yet seen the kind of the proper kind of people who thought long enough and hard enough about the space.
Perfect. Thank you. So if I may also sum up your words, you're saying that basically the market is there, but the products are not there yet. And you could have invested, but you haven't seen the company that has this potential that you're interested in. So maybe we have
also very picky, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so maybe we have a startup founder or someone who would be interested in this area, and then you will invest in them. Thank you. So, and I have a question for you, Beth. You have an initiative basically that supports also Ukrainian startups. Could you kind of give us an overview? And also, I would probably address the same question to you regarding the startup that maybe you have seen on Reskilling and Upskilling, because you're an organization that organizes all the EdTech startups, right? So maybe you have like the floor, some experience in basically seeing those startups and what do they do and in which location they're located. Thanks.
Yeah, so we were very interested in seeing how we could possibly help the education systems for displaced learners, either within Ukraine or also external to Ukraine. And we started out by trying to put together a list of all the resources that were being offered to these students and their families. And we realized very quickly that we couldn't do it on our own. And we were lucky enough to join an existing European Commission funded project, the New Ukrainian School Hub. And from that, we were able to push out an entire different site, which was specifically focused on any resources that were available, either completely free or at a negotiated rate then for all of the displaced learners and their families. And I think we started to realize that any work that we were doing had to be done on a more holistic basis. So we saw the entire education community as those that we were trying to reach. And that included the families, the teachers, administrators to a certain degree, and also host families of displaced learners in other areas, because we saw that there was a big need as well to help with support tools and resources. And so we started also working together with all of the ministries of education throughout all of Europe. And that's sort of beyond just the sort of European region, where we started to try and get any information that we possibly could to support that entire learning and education community as they moved through their journeys, because we realized that a lot of them were starting out in some countries, but were not going to be staying there. And so we tried to make all of the available information presented through this school hub, where they could go to see how they could get access to devices, how they could get access to healthcare, to education situations, how they could also reskill and upskill if they were teachers that were trying to find jobs in other areas. And so we became more of a centralized platform. I think at the height of what we were doing, we had just under 800 startups, and it changed depending on sort of what was on offer each month. And over summer, we had some more, but generally around 800 startups that were participating. And we had somewhere between sort of 3,000 and 10,000 different users each month as well. We're moving through that. And in terms of looking at some of the startups that are offering reskilling and upskilling, I think some of the most innovative things that I've seen have been the ones that are truly looking to see how they can better realign skill sets for different types of recognition. So not necessarily building entirely new bases of skills, but figuring out how to repackage or sort of realign skills that exist to a way that's recognizable in other regions and other countries. So there was a lot of work that was being done specifically in our segment to try and see how we could support those who have any kind of teaching background to become recognized in the countries that they were heading to, or any kind of way that they could then be sourced out to those other education environments when contracts weren't possible through different legal systems and things like that. And so I think that to the demand piece that was mentioned before, that's a key piece of this, and how we can help reframing some of the skills that that a lot of people bring with them, but that may not be recognized in a certain capacity or in a certain environment. And I also think some of the other things that I'm seeing that I find very interesting are the ones that are more forward-thinking approaches, or looking to more sort of future-proofed skills. So not necessarily looking at hard skills, but also looking at some of the future-proof soft skills that we're going to be needing, especially considering AI use within education. And a lot of that's around things like developing better systems for understanding the differences between fact and opinion, differentiating between different skills, aligned also with some of the European Commission's work on skills that they've been doing this year. So really looking at some of those soft skills as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I have the last question. We have 10 minutes to go, maybe slightly less. And I want to ask you one question to all the panelists. So what do you think, like, the post-war context in Ukraine presents both challenges, but also opportunities? And in your respective fields, what do you believe are the critical success factors for reskilling and upskilling initiatives to thrive and make a meaningful impact?
So we go just one by one, okay?
Yes.
I would like to twist it around a little bit because we're thinking about post-war. We don't know when that's going to happen yet. Of course, I would love this to happen today. But the reality is that Ukraine is a fairly well-functioning ecosystem right now. It's an economy that it's not maybe tremendously growing, but there are sectors that are growing, yeah, like defense tech, for example. The IT in general is also growing a few percent per year, but it's still growing, right?
5% growth, yeah, the Ministry of Economy says.
Exactly. So the point is that let's focus maybe on the things that are here and now. Maybe let's focus on what to do, how to use the value of either people who are displaced outside of Ukraine or people who are in Ukraine that are veterans, for example. There is lots of opportunities, but they require investments. So we would have to somehow, I think, animate this global economy to invest in Ukraine, but in a long-term sense. So thinking not about return on investment in 2 or 3 or 5 years, but rather a decade or two. So I think betting heavily on tech, on the tech industry, can really help Ukraine to achieve these goals, especially that we know this from Poland, that IT industry is creating a lot of indirect jobs. So, and of course, this means that it becomes also attractive for people to join the tech ecosystem. But that requires funding, that requires the market to kind of unfreeze a little bit, or maybe some sort of a government approach to take more debt and invest that debt in tech. So there's more startups, there's more spin-offs, because such a great stories like Headway, we need more that. We need literally hundreds of startups like that, and then the economy is going to do really well on the tech side, yeah. So focusing on today, I think that's the key.
Perfect. Thank you.
I will probably start with my answer will consist of one big philosophical theme and then one very niche concrete example. So the big philosophical theme is that not far from here, about 4 or 5 years ago, Yuval Noah Harari was given one of his talks, and people ask him, like, Yuval, so what should we teach our kids? And he's like, well, it depends where you are. I mean, some kids, they should learn how to code, and some kids need to learn how to shoot Kalashnikov. And we all laughed, and kind of like, now we find ourselves in this unfortunate situation where it looks like Ukraine would need to teach their kids to both how to code and at least maybe not shoot Kalashnikov, but probably kind of how to operate a drone. So that's basically maybe my sort of the kind of philosophical answer to this, is that your kind of strategy on education should probably reflect the environment you're in and kind of the country's goals. So kind of how that translates into kind of multiple bullet points and sub-bullet points, it's probably kind of Ukrainian government is much more kind of capable of deciding. On the specific niche that sort of we see is kind of, especially since you ask about the kind of in a context of reconstruction, well, construction sector, right? So we're going to be, post-war will eventually come. We're going to be having the largest construction project in Europe in the last 75 years. What does it actually mean beyond the fact that the glass factories will have a great time? The kind of, that would probably mean that the kind of all the skills that you need for construction workers, from ditch diggers to metal workers to electricians to people who provide sort of mobile toilets for construction site, which was without mobile toilets, the construction site can kind of go kind of bad pretty quickly. So kind of all these things to the architects and the very, very high skilled, right? So this is going to be the absolutely bottleneck in the capacity, because inside, if you have, I don't know, like 10, 15, I don't know what the number is, 100 architects in Odessa, you probably need 300, and you cannot clone them, and you kind of to prepare them kind of for them to kind of work. You cannot just multiply them in a second. So these capacity buildup for construction sector is something that obviously this is not tech, right? But this is something that when you look at how the thing goes long term, this for me is kind of the absolute interesting niche that somebody should probably think about.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll try to be short. Okay, I would focus on three things to speak. The first one is a public-private partnership. The second one, of course, focus. And the last one, I would tell, educational program tailor-made for local specific. When we speak about public-private partnership, we talked a lot about it today. It's fundamental for the success because it's a proven track record. In Ukraine, Ukrainian startups, they are agile, they are creative, and they are very cost efficient. So everything that the IT ecosystem made together with government during the war times, it had a significant impact. It was done in a very short period of time. And of course, it was very cost efficient because we remember that money counts. Yeah, it's important to be cost efficient. Also, at the beginning of the war, there were a lot of initiatives, but lately it was found out that it's better to unite and focus on something specific to have the most impact on the process. So I would say that we need only a few specific programs with which business can collaborate in public-private partnership. And finally, it's local specific. You cannot just take the experience from other countries, Israel, UK. It simply will not work in Ukraine. Ukraine is a specific country. It's at the same time post-Soviet, but westernized and digitalized. And one bright example I would like to show here is lifelong learning. Headway is about lifelong learning. It's a concept very well known in the West, but not so well known in Ukraine. When we speak about people in their 30s or older, the last time they were taught something was decades ago. And for them, it will be increasingly difficult to start learning again, and even more difficult to continue learning to stay competitive in modern changing world. So at Headway, we plan to contribute forming this long life learning culture in Ukraine to support this Reskilling initiative.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Beth?
I think just to follow up on that, there's a number of amazing initiatives coming out of Ukraine right now, which are very much around trying to promote that continued learning culture. And there's some fantastic foundations that are being set up to also specifically target children who are directly affected by any kind of war situation and provide them with learning environments. So I think definitely watch that space. And I want to keep it super short. There's 4 things I would focus on, and that would be relevance, ease of use, access, and looking at some of those niche areas that others may not be focusing on, but which will become so increasingly important, and really use your skills to focus on those niche areas.
Thank you so much. I think we're perfectly on time. I just can sum up with an announcement together with the Startup Fund and the Ministry of Education and Science and the Presidential Fund. We're working on bringing a delegation to BAT UK, which is the biggest EdTech conference in Europe. So please come and visit us in January. There will be more of Ukrainian startups. There will be also the Ministry of Digital Transformation and their initiatives presented, such as DSCT and I hope Maria, which is an EdTech solution for schools. So come and visit us in January, and feel free to continue with drinks and wine. And thank you everyone for the panel.